Welcome to Time Management with Kelly. I'm Kelly. I am so excited to talk to you about this today. It is one of my favorite topics. All right, so you might be wondering, why should I listen to you about time management? Well, aside from the fact that I have been watching Doctor Who since I was 10, I've also been writing a novel about time travel since I was 10 as well. So that means that for 27 years, I have been researching the concept of time. In 2014, I got obsessed with what I call the nonfiction side of time travel, which is time management. It basically means creating and saving more time. So I read every book I could read on the subject, including Eat That Frog, Getting Things Done, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. If you're wondering about the Eat That Frog title, it's actually from a Mark Twain quote. Eat a live frog first thing every morning and nothing worse will happen to you for the rest of the day. It basically means do your most important work first, because it's going to be the thing that you really don't want to do, and that means that you should do it. Get it over with. I found my idol in 2017. This is time management expert Laura Vanderkam, and I got to listen to her speak at the Texas Women's Conference. I got her to sign my book, and then I read all of her books in a month. I recommend all of them. Her best one is 168 hours. That's how many hours you have in a week, by the way. No. You should be sleeping 56 hours a night, but we'll get back to that. And then I started writing my own time management book. I hope to self-publish this on Amazon later this year. I'm about 10,000 words in, and I'm really excited about it. So basically, I've done a lot of reading about time management so that you don't have to spend your time doing it. So I'm going to share my tips with you. The first step to successful time management is to declutter everything in your house. Why should you declutter things? There's actually 8 reasons from Psychology Today. These are the ways that clutter slows us down. It bombards our minds with unnecessary stimuli. It distracts us from what's important. It makes it difficult to relax physically and mentally. It signals to our brain that our work is not done. It makes us anxious. It makes us feel guilty. It inhibits our creativity by taking up needed headspace. And it frustrates us when we can't find what we need quickly. So basically, it slows us down. The place that you should start decluttering is your closet. Now, the best thing I've heard to get rid of clutter in your closet actually came to me from Nikki. This was her idea, and she blew my mind. It's the backwards hanger trick. Does anyone know this trick? No, besides Nikki, who's eating, so she can't raise her hand. Basically, you turn all the hangers in your closet backwards. You only turn them forwards when you put something on it that you've washed and worn recently. And then after a year, you give away everything on a backwards hanger, because that means that in a year, you didn't wear it. I did this, and even if you have the literal space to store lots of clothes in your closet, I have to argue you don't have the headspace for it. If you need any more closet decluttering tips, I really like the Project 33 blog. Then declutter the whole rest of your house. I found the best way to do this actually comes from Marie Kondo in her book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. You can read that, or you can just watch this Gilmore Girls clip where Emily Gilmore sums it up very concisely in one sentence.
I'm decluttering my life. If it brings you joy, you keep it, and if it doesn't, out it goes. No joy.
He's taking the dining room chairs.
They don't bring me joy.
Simple, straightforward, right? How many of you have never seen Gilmore Girls? Raise your hand. I'm going to have to argue that watching all 8 seasons of that on Netflix is a very good use of your time. Next, declutter your email. I kind of use my email as my task list. I think a lot of people do this. Basically, if you're still working on something, you leave it in your inbox. And if it's done, you need to move it to the appropriate folder. Now, what about those emailed newsletters that you get, but you delete on site because you never have time to read them? It's a really good idea to unsubscribe from anything that you don't read. Now, be sure you hover over any unsubscribe links to make sure they go where you expect. You don't want to get any kind of phishing attempts. But you can always bookmark a website and read something at your leisure instead of deleting it every time it comes into your inbox because you just don't have time for it. Next, declutter your social media. If you downloaded Snapchat 2 years ago so you could put cute things on your dog and then you never opened it again, get rid of it. If you like to get on Pinterest and Twitter to search for inspiration, but you never pin and you never tweet, you can delete both. You can search Twitter with just twitter.com/search. And though you can't look at Pinterest without having an account, unless you actually make all the things that you see on Pinterest, I don't think it's a good use of your time to stare at it for 8 hours and then eat salad out of a mason jar like this quote quotes. You probably don't need a YouTube account if you don't create videos. You can watch cat videos without one. You probably don't have a MySpace account or a Google Plus account if you're not a musician or photographer, but if you do and you never touch them, you should get rid of them. Oh, you've never heard of Google Plus? Okay, good, let's move on. Facebook and Instagram are probably here to stay, but if you don't think they're worth your time, by all means, get rid of them. For Facebook, I will say it's probably better to deactivate your account instead of delete it, because if you deactivate, you can go away as long as you want and you can come back when you want, but if you delete it, your timeline's gone forever. And when you get off Facebook and you tell everyone, I'm getting off Facebook, and then you crack and come back 2 months later because you can't stand being off of it, you're going to be upset that your timeline is gone. You also need to declutter your workspace to save your headspace. So if your desk looks like a bomb went off that was strangely filled with paperwork, food, and things you really need to recycle, you need to stop everything and declutter. What I recommend doing is making 4 piles. You're going to have trash, recycle, file, and pretty much pictures and doodads. I actually think the only things that should be on your desk are a monitor, computer stuff, a phone, and maybe some pictures and maybe some knickknacks, but don't let those take over. I actually don't think you need files or supplies on your desk. I think what you should do instead is clear out your top drawer and use that as your desktop drawer that you put everything in that you would be tempted to put on your desk. When you clean your desk, you suddenly have a lot more mental space than you expect. Basically, if your desk is so bare it looks like it belongs in an IKEA showroom, you're doing it right. And I like the rocks. Track your time is the next step. Now, Laura Vanderkam will tell you that you should track your time with this tedious Excel spreadsheets forever. I actually don't think this is a good use of your time. If you track your time for a week, you know everything you need to know. The easiest way that I've found to track your time is called Toggle. It's a website. It's toggl.com, no E. It's simple. You create an account. It's free. You log in to track your time. You toggle on this green button. The timer starts. Then you put in the start time and end time and the date of your activity. And then you give your activity a name. And that's it. It's very simple. The first time you track your time, I'd recommend breaking it into free time, sleep, and work. Do it for a week. You should have 168 hours. You should have about 56 hours of sleep a night, or a week. A night would be amazing. A night or a week, and then that's if you're getting 8 hours of sleep a night, which you should. If you don't believe me that sleep is important, I've got lots of studies that I can email you. And then for work, when you track that, you should factor in commuting time as well as lunchtime. Because I really don't think you'd sit on Mopac for 2 hours and reheat leftovers in a company kitchen if you weren't doing it for work. If you would, I can't help you. So do that. And then find your free time. Mine is 60 hours a week. But free time is kind of not an accurate term. I like to call it controllable time because we all know it's not really free. It's only free until you fill it, which you will. But we'll get back to that. Sometimes you can also just track how you spend your work in a given work week, so just the 8 hours you're at work. Find out interesting things. You're going to see that you spend a lot of time reading emails and in meetings, but that's kind of how work goes. You can also just track your free time for a week. So basically, when you get home, you start the timer, and then when you go to bed, you turn it off. I have about 5 hours of free time a workday and about 10 to 12 hours on the weekends. That's important to know. Time management at work. The first thing you need to do to manage your time well at work is to put everything you need to do in one spot. There's lots of programs you can use to do this. My favorite online project management software or website is Asana. It's free. I'm not even going to tell you how to use it. It's so easy. I think if you were to create a site and log in, you'd have no trouble. But it has a really great calendar view, which is why I love it. It also has a list view if you think in lists. So what do you do with all this work? You need to process it. So basically, this strategy is actually from get things done from Dave Allen. Everybody agrees it's the best. So you take all the stuff and you decide, is it actionable? If the answer is no, you either trash or recycle it. If the answer is yes, you say, will this take less than 2 minutes? If the answer is yes, you do it. If it's no, it's a project. And that's when you decide if you're going to delegate it, defer it, or do it right now. Now, how do you decide? This is how you prioritize. That's the next step. This comes from Eat That Frog. It's the ABCDE method. You give every task a letter and a number. The letter is the importance, and the number is the order in which you will do it. A are your most important tasks that if you wouldn't do them, it would be a real problem. You'd have consequences. B is also important, but the consequences aren't as big. C are nice to haves that don't have consequences. D are tasks that you could probably delegate to someone else. And E are things that are neither important nor urgent, so you shouldn't do them. So the rule is you give everything a letter and a number, and you can't do the next letter until you close out the one before it. So if you have A1, A2, B1, B2, you need to do all the A's before you can do the B's. This ensures that you do your most important work first. If that's too complicated for you, you can pick 3 things a day and just do those 3 things. That's a really easy way to do some project management. When should you say no at work? You got to ask yourself 4 questions whenever something comes in. Do I have time to do this? Would it affect my other work? If I reorganized, would I be able to work it in? Is there someone else that's better able to handle this project? Now, obviously, if somebody else works on something routinely, you can always refer the person who's asking you to do that thing to go to that person. But if any of these other things are a no, instead of saying no, I actually recommend that you just let someone know the next time that you're available. Say, I'm really sorry, I can't do this today. Can I do it for you tomorrow, or can I do it for you next week? If the answer is no, then it's a good idea to go to your manager and say, hey, I've got these 5 things to do today. Which of these things can I bump to accommodate this new request? Time management at home. This is where I'm going to ask you to find your time machine. A time machine is something that you either hate, you don't care about it, or you just don't like it. It's something that if you were to skip and not do it, you would create more time for yourself. My biggest time machine is cooking. I'm terrible at it, I don't like it, so I don't do it. Therefore, I have a lot of free time. There's also a lot of meal delivery services that are actually healthy, like Freshly will bring microwavable food like right to your door, and you don't even have to cook it, you just microwave it. Just saying. I also really like Walmart pickup and any of the grocery store pickup services. Does anybody use these? These are so great, yeah. Basically, you pick a time, you scan everything in that you want to buy, you pay for it, you show up, they put it in your car, and then you just drive it home. Grocery shopping can take 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be forever. Another one of my time machines is cleaning. I live with, well, my husband is really particular. He doesn't really like it when I clean because I won't do it right. So I'm lucky to live with a clean person, so that's something that I don't have to spend time on. So if that's one of your time machines, live with a clean person. I'm also a minimalist, so I'm not really into shopping. If you like shopping, power to you. But if you don't want to spend time doing it, you can either not do it and have less things, which is my approach, or you can shop online. The power of no is also a time machine. If somebody asks you to do something that you don't want to do, it's kind of silly to spend your life doing something that somebody else wants you to do. So if it's not going to affect your health or your job, I say no. Now, how do you find your wants and needs, and how do you make time for them? I'm going to tell you to make a list of everything you need and want to do. It can be on paper, but since I never have paper on me, I always have my smartphone. I use Trello. It's a really cool app. And then you divide it into 3 things. You do life goals, you do things I need to do, and things I want to do. Things I need to do are errands. And then you're going to make routines on a daily basis and a weekend basis, but we'll get to weekend, that reflect these goals. Because you can't say I want to be a best-selling author, right, and then never write. So you need to make routines that actually fit in something that'll get you there. So you're going to split it into morning, during work, lunch, and then evening, which is going to have 3 categories, and we'll get back to that. For your morning routine, you probably remember every day to brush your teeth and shower, so you don't need to put that on the list. You only need to put things that you're going to have trouble doing, like for me, it's work out on the elliptical and walk my dog. For during work, try to think of things that you could do to get you closer to your goals, like maybe take the stairs, maybe use your standing desk. I don't use my standing desk enough. That's something I'm working towards. Sitting on your ball chair, I have a ball chair that works your core while you sit there. I need to sit on that more too. You could also do shoulder rolls at your desk. You could lift weights while you're reading. There's lots of things you can do. For lunch, try to think of relaxing ways to spend it as well as productive ways to spend it. You can go out to lunch with coworkers, you can listen to podcasts, you can read, you can write, you can pay bills, you can book appointments. Now, what about the lunchtime workout? I'm so glad you asked. Let's talk about working out in general. When should you do it? It's true that you can work out in the morning, you can work out during lunch, and you can work out in the evening. But one of these times is more likely to stick than all the others. Does anyone know what it is? Shout it out. Morning. That's right. I know you're tired of hearing it, but it's the best time to work out because no one, well, that's one reason, But no one's going to schedule a happy hour, a trip to, or a ride to soccer practice, or a meeting, or a dinner at 5:30 a.m. So it's the time to work out because no one's going to try to claim your time. If you can make it work after work, go for it, but things tend to come up after work. So I have a feeling you won't make it there more than once or twice a week. The lunchtime workout is actually the least likely of the bunch. It's because you're going to need to shower afterwards, most likely, unless you're one of those lucky people that don't sweat. I'm not one of those people. For a while, I worked 7 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., so I had an hour and a half lunch break, so I could do the Orange Theory class every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And it worked. It was okay. The thing that really got me was that I always forgot one thing I really needed, because it's so easy to do in this situation. You don't know how important gym socks are until you spend an entire workout sweating directly into your new workout shoes because you forgot gym socks. So just saying, I think you'll discover that it's a good idea in theory, but in practice, it's not really that practical. But if you can do it, power to you. So when should you work out? I say you should work out in the morning from November to March, and in the evening from March to November. Does anyone know why I say that? Daylight savings, that's right. So that's my solution, or you can just link your representative this video.
And now, Last Week Tonight asks, how is this still a thing? This week, daylight saving time. How is this still a thing? If you're like most Americans, you've been groggy all day after losing an hour of sleep to daylight saving. You may have wondered, why is this happening? For years, conventional wisdom has been that it benefits one particular group.
I know it started because of farmers. I'm almost sure of that.
But that's not actually true.
It gives them extra time to plant, extra time to harvest.
It has nothing to do with farmers.
I remember years ago hearing that it was for the farm people.
The farm people want nothing to do with this, as they themselves will tell you.
I know really no farmer that I'm aware of that benefits from actually farm activities having daylight savings time.
Of course, daylight saving doesn't benefit farmers. Cows don't care what time it is because they're cows, and cows are idiots. So if it's not for them, who is it for? And while back then daylight saving may indeed have saved fuel, in the modern era, energy consumption is a little more complicated. In fact, when Indiana adopted daylight saving in 2006, guess what happened?
The data shows that daylight saving actually led to a 1% overall rise in residential electricity.
Of course it did. Because switching on a lamp an hour later in the summer doesn't really matter when you're blasting an air conditioner and staying up all night, psychotically scrolling through Instagrams of your ex's honeymoon to Morocco. But that's not to say daylight saving doesn't have any effects at all.
Studies show there is an increase of car accidents and work-related injuries the week after the time change.
That's right. What you lose in sleep, you gain in mortal danger. Despite all this, 70 countries around the world still observe daylight saving. So if it doesn't benefit our energy bill, our health, or our stupid, stupid cows, it has to make you wonder. Daylight saving time. How is this still a thing?
Well, unfortunately, it is still a thing, so we have to make do. So let's go back to evening. You should separate each evening into your must-dos, your should-dos, and your want-to-dos. The goal is to do all of your must-dos, maybe one or two of your should-dos, or none of them, depending on how you feel, and then at least two of your want-to-dos, because what's the point of going through life and going through a day if you don't do anything that you want to do that day? So the thing about must-dos and should-dos, there's a very subtle but important difference. A must-do is usually health-related. If you don't work out or brush your teeth, you could actually shorten your life. Now, a should-do is something like pick up the mail. If you don't pick up the mail, you're not going to shorten your life. At least I hope not. I don't know what kind of mail you guys get. All right, so do those things, and a really good way to track your must-dos is an app that I use called Strides. Again, it's free. You put in everything that you want to do for the day, and you check it off, and then you get little green dots when you do it, and you get a red dot when you don't do it. And so the idea is to get as many green dots in the month as you can. You're kind of challenging yourself, and it makes you want to keep up with your must-dos. You can also do something called a power hour. which is an idea from happiness writer Gretchen Rubin. It basically means every day when you come home, you do everything that you need to do within that first hour, and then you're free the rest of the evening to do what you want. Now, if you're working out in the evening because of daylight savings, your power hour might take 2 hours, but still. The idea is to just get it all done, and then you have free time. That takes us to weekends. Weekends are wonderful, aren't they? You have more time, you have more space, you can go out to lunch, you can sleep in, you can work out, you can walk your dog slowly, you don't have to rush it. But still a good idea to make a list of how you would want to spend your ideal weekend day. So you've got to have some kind of plan that'll get you towards your goals. If you just kind of meander through the day and you don't really know what you're doing, you're going to waste this time. Now, if a vague list is not enough for you, by all means, go ahead and chart out your waking hours and fill every single block with what you'd like to do. I recommend making an ideal work day, an ideal day off, and an ideal weekend day. And then fill all your time the way that you would fill it if you could. Because you're never going to know what an ideal day looks like if you don't first write down what you'd want to see. And that's it. Questions? No questions about time and time management? I covered it so well. All right, great. Thank you, guys.